Did the Fever just set themselves up to lose Lexie Hull without even noticing it happen? Not in a dramatic midnight headline, but in that slow, silent way where a team makes a dozen small choices that feel harmless in the moment, tweaking rotations here, testing a lineup there, and suddenly realizes the one player who glued everything together is staring at options she didn't used to have. If you watch closely this season, you felt it before you could name it. The numbers nudged it along, the body language whispered it, the fan chatter got louder, and the league, which is always scouting the edges, started taking notes. And the wildest part is that none of this is about some flashy stat line or box score explosion. It's about the kind of player who doesn't need a neon arrow pointing at her to change a game. It's about a wing who gives you the defensive backbone and the spacing without eating up possessions. The person who makes your stars' lives simpler while asking for almost nothing in return except trust and clear minutes.
We just exceeded expectations. And so I think that's kind of where that pridefulness comes from, and everyone just continuing to show up and love each other and fight for each other and fight for the people that couldn't be out there. So yeah, I think proud is like the biggest sentiment following the season.
You can feel the tension even in warm-ups. There's this quiet confidence to her routine, the same cadence every night, like a drummer keeping perfect time while everyone else is riffing. She doesn't chase heat checks or flood the lane looking for a camera. She waits, she slides, she times her digs, and then she resets the geometry of the floor with a corner three that looks like a metronome tick. And that rhythm spreads. Star guards breathe easier knowing the toughest assignment is handled. Bigs don't have to overhelp. The bench sees a blueprint for how to matter in a game without hijacking it. Fans always talk about glue, but the secret is that glue players don't announce themselves.
We're a deep team, and I think everyone's really bought into trusting the process. This season, it might not start off super pretty, but we know that
they earn belief one possession at a time. That's Lexie. She's the quiet solution to problems you don't want to admit you have.
But here's where the story turns from admiration to risk. Somewhere along the way, the plan got complicated. Injuries rolled through like a cold front. New signings popped in, then popped out. Coaches tried combos that looked interesting on a whiteboard and then looked wobbly under playoff lighting. Nobody set out to minimize Lexie, and yet there were stretches, especially in the heart of the schedule, where her minutes felt like a coin flip. One night she's on the floor during the swing moments that decide the game. The next night, she's watching those same moments from the sideline, hands on hips, the scoreboard reflecting off her cheek. If you're a role player in this league, that's the kind of uncertainty that drills into your head. It doesn't just change your night, it warps your future conversations. You start hearing the whispers from other teams as something more than noise.
Let's be crystal clear and respectful about it. Not everything fans say online is gospel. A lot of what gets labeled insider truth is really just frustration in a different outfit. But it's also true that the league is tiny, and word travels fast when a steady, defense-first wing is feeling underused. Some nights, the numbers felt like a siren, a string of sub-20-minute games during a stretch where the team was hunting for stops like oxygen. Other nights, the impact was too obvious to ignore. Deflections, shadow coverage that forced a star into tougher angles, a timely three that turned a one-possession panic into a two-possession cushion. It's not that the staff didn't see it, it's that experiments kept colliding with reality, and reality kept saying, this is one of your safest bets. And that's where the what next chatter started getting teeth. Rumors suggest there are teams already circling the idea of a hard-nosed wing who doesn't need plays called for her.
Story of a player evolving into a legit two-way contributor after a breakout 2024 season in which she was shooting 47% from three-point range. Hull expanded the value while maintaining efficient, converting 36%.
Reports claim some front offices have a specific category on their whiteboards for this exact archetype: rangy defender, corner specialist, low maintenance, high trust. It's been said that a few contenders are quietly ranking plug-and-play two-way wings as their biggest offseason need. Not because they're sexy acquisitions, but because they turn good offenses into stable ones and fragile defenses into reliable ones. None of that is a promise. It's the way those things tend to build before the phones start ringing. And if you're a player whose season included long patches of uncertainty, just hearing those possibilities changes your internal clock.
The strangest part is how two truths can coexist without canceling each other. On the record, there's respect both ways. Publicly, you'll hear the coach talking about toughness and versatility.
It means a lot. I mean, this is a franchise that I love. It's really a fabric of my DNA, from a player to assistant coach to head coach to just the state of Indiana.
Publicly, you'll hear Lexie talk about staying ready, about valuing the system, about putting winning first.
We're so grateful. It's really great to know that we have a support system everywhere we go. We have fans cheering for us everywhere we go, and that goes a long way,
Both statements can be entirely sincere, and still you can have rotation patterns that don't match the praise. That clash, words of belief versus minutes of doubt, is how a story becomes a decision. Fans will try to flatten it into heroes and villains, but life inside a season rarely works that way. A coach sees a practice detail we don't see. A wing feels a promise that never quite reached the court. It's the inches, not the headlines, that shove a player toward the door. If you have ever been the teammate who guards the best scorer and gets 2 shots in the first half and maybe 3 more in the second, you know the razor's edge of your usefulness is tied to rhythm, not ego, rhythm. Your feet get faster when you touch the ball. Your closeouts get cleaner when you see the net ripple even once. If the minutes jerk around, you're playing defense at a sprint while your lungs try to remember what starter pace feels like. And still, the expectation is that you show up like a fire extinguisher, break the glass, be instantly perfect, and then tuck yourself back in. The best glue wings make that look easy, but it takes a toll. After a while, you start thinking, if I'm this steady while wobbling through inconsistent usage, what happens if someone gives me 28 minutes in a role you can't erase with a bad 5-minute stretch? There were nights this season where her toughness turned into a subplot all its own. The 2 black eyes moment became shorthand for everything fans already believed she was. Resilient, a little stubborn, and absolutely unbothered by how it looks. You don't play through that for likes. You play through it because your job is doing the things other players would rather not do. That's the ethos that makes a locker room sit up straighter. It's also the kind of thing other teams clock immediately. They see the bruises and think, we could build an identity around that. Not because anyone wants players getting dinged up, but because the symbolism is impossible to miss. She'll keep showing up even when it's not glamorous. Now imagine how that looks in an off-season pitch. A front office calls and says, we won't overload you with shots.
These women, but they have a tendency to attack the white women on the Indiana Fever team for whatever reason. People can say I'm racist, people can say different things, but it's like they have an agenda to attack these white women, and it's just not right.
But we'll put you on the floor when the game is being decided. You'll guard the best perimeter option, we'll put you in the corner on action we actually run, and you'll know your number before you lace up. It's not a promise to turn someone into a headliner. It's a promise to stop treating reliability like a luxury. Another team goes, we've got a lead creator.
Who needs space? And a big who needs someone to stunt and recover with discipline? That's you. Also, here's a contract that admits you matter. Suddenly, the calculus changes. It's not just money, it's respect in a language role players understand. Consistent minutes, clear assignment, 0 games of musical chairs once the scouting reports land. Fans often get tangled up in the torque of star narratives, extensions, maxes, loyalty oaths on media day, and miss how retention really works for the middle of the roster. You keep stars with money and vision. You keep glue with trust and habit. When rotations wobble and stay wobbly long enough, the habit breaks. When the habit breaks, players look around. And the W is full of smart organizations that love good habits. They'll over-communicate a role and then honor it in January and in June and in the 4th quarter with 2 timeouts left. They'll sell a vision that doesn't require a hype machine, just film. That's how quiet exits begin, not with a dramatic trade request, but with a shrug that says, I can do my job better where they'd like me to do it every night.
Of course, there's a version of this story where the Fever tighten the screws and render all the speculation moot. It starts with clarity, not a press conference quote, but a plan that survives a bad shooting week or an opponent who dares someone else to beat them. You sit down and you say, here's your baseline, minutes, matchups, and a handful of sets that find you in rhythm early, not late. You pair that with a number that acknowledges the marketplace, because whispers travel faster than flight itineraries, and it's no secret that wings whose space and guard are suddenly the most expensive budget items that aren't called franchise point guard. You top it off with something not measurable by cap sheets, a public posture that says, we value this player as a core piece of how we win. And then you back that up when the season stops being theoretical and starts being a gauntlet.
If that sounds simple, it isn't. Rotations are political. Promises stack up. Someone always feels shortchanged. But the question good teams ask is not who deserves it most on paper, it's which five give us the math we want when everything slows down. A wing who turns star drives into kickouts, who keeps stars fresher by handling the ugliest parts of defense, who hits open threes at a rate that forces coaches to shout, "Stay home!" from the sideline, that player fixes math problems. And if you've ever seen a playoff series tilt because of the third defender in a chain reaction, you know exactly why those players become coveted the second they seem gettable. There's another layer too, the message to the room. If the teammate who sacrifices the most gets his or her seat pulled out from under them first, everyone else notices. It's the fastest way to convert idealists into cynics. But when the steady ones are treated like pillars, you get the opposite effect. Your stars play freer because they trust the edges. Your bench believes there's a ladder instead of a trap door. That becomes culture, not the poster in the hallway, but the thing a rookie feels when she misses 2 shots and still sees her name on the substitution card at the same time she always does. Retaining a player like Lexie isn't an isolated HR problem, it's the loudest thing you can say about what will and won't be rewarded in your building.
Let's talk about the emotional math from the player side, because it matters. We love pretending this is all spreadsheets and depth charts.
Blinders on, go to work, show up to work, punch your clock in, prepare yourself, work on your game, work on your craft, kind of keep your mouth shut, and just learn from the vets. When they ask, you avoid.
But the decision to stay or test the waters is deeply human. Rhythm is human. Respect is human. Knowing your family won't need to guess if you played 18 minutes or 28 is human. If the year included a pileup of your vital sound bites that weren't always matched by usage, you carry that with you in every conversation. Even with the best intentions on both sides, that gap becomes a character in the room. The only way to shrink it is to be specific. Minutes targets, matchup philosophies, offensive triggers that make the ball find you twice in the first 6 minutes so the engine runs clean the rest of the night. There are also the what-ifs that keep fans up. What if she leaves and someone else uses her like a Swiss Army knife and suddenly the counting stats inch up and the defensive rating flips from good to elite with her on the floor? What if the team ends up spending 2 off-seasons trying to find the exact traits it already had in-house? That's the kind of regret you can't fix with a mid-season deal. Because while there are always wings available, there aren't many who check all the boxes while staying so low maintenance that you barely notice how much they're doing until they're not doing it for you anymore. And when they're doing it somewhere else, it looks like alchemy.
Here's where rumors can trip people up, so let's frame them responsibly. It's been said in fan spaces that certain teams will go all in on a profile like this. That's heat-of-the-moment talk, not a front office memo. Still, fit chatter tends to exist where logic already lives. Teams with elite guards want defensive wings who won't jam up the middle. Teams with mobile bigs want perimeter stoppers who can stunt and recover without causing a cascade of rotations. Clubs that struggle on the glass want wings who turn loose balls into extra possessions. Lexie fits those puzzles in a way scouts can explain in 10 seconds. Nobody needs to pitch her as a savior. They just need to show a couple clips, a couple touch maps, and a cap sheet that says, "We mean it." And again, there's a world where the Fever author the opposite ending, where they write this off as a near-miss lesson and lean directly into what's been true all along. You don't have to promise anyone the moon. You have to lock in the things that already work. If your primary creators thrive with a defensive safety net and clean corners, stop treating those ingredients like optional garnish. If your defense creaks when point of attack coverage slips, stop gambling on lineups that prioritize theoretical spacing over real containment. It's not rocket science, it's taste. Know what makes your house warm and keep the fireplace stoked.
What never gets enough credit is how the smallest early touches can reshape an entire night. Get her a clean catch-and-shoot touch in the first 3 minutes and watch how the footwork sharpens on closeouts. Give her the top assignment and then actually let her live with it through a mistake or two, and watch how the lanes constrict for the other team's star in the fourth. If you've ever coached, you know this already. You can feel when a role player's nervous system changes because the plan didn't wobble. Do that enough times and role players start sounding like an undersell. Now you're talking about a pillar, not a piece. There's a temptation when free agency hovers to drown everything in dramatics, grand pronouncements, ultimatums, do or die. That's not how this has to go. This can be calm. It can be, here's the film, here's your usage, here's the number, here's the public message, we're done guessing. It's amazing how much conflict disappears when the guessing evaporates. And for a player whose superpower is doing her work in the seams, removing guesswork is probably the most honest gift you can give.
Lexie, that final three-pointer kind of felt like the perfect end of that night. Just if you could just talk to me about the celebration, how much of a relief that was for you, just kind of to punctuate it like that.
It's also fair to acknowledge that sometimes both sides evolve. Maybe the player wants a bigger slice than the team can promise without taking from someone else who's earned it too. Maybe the team wants to tilt into a slightly different style and needs more on-ball juice at the 2 or the 3. If that's the case, it's better for everyone to be transparent now than to force a fit that frays in February. The point isn't to handcuff a coach or to demand guarantees nobody can reasonably make. It's to align on a shared picture of what the next 9 months actually look like when things get hard. If the answer is, we're not sure, the market has a way of clarifying it for you. All of this loops back to why players like Lexie are getting more expensive by the year. The league's skill level keeps rising. Every team now has multiple ball handlers who can pull up, snake, and spray. Everyone toggles between 5 out and 2 big looks. Every scout is a novel. The most valuable counterpunch is the player who shrinks error bars, the one who takes 5 possessions that could have gone sideways and tucks them neatly into your column. When you find that, you do not let it turn into a bidding war because you misread your own needs. You solve it in-house with clarity and follow-through, because the alternative is looking up in March and asking a wing who isn't built for that job to become someone she isn't.
If you're listening to this and thinking, so what exactly should the Fever do tomorrow morning? The action items aren't mysterious. Call the meeting. Lay out the role in concrete terms, without hedging. Put a number on the page that matches what teams will whisper, not what you hope they'll whisper. Make a human promise about consistency that you can actually keep when shots stop falling or when the schedule gets brutal. And then carry that promise into the season with the same discipline you expect from the player you're building it around. That's how you stop a slow leak. That's how you tell the room what your culture truly is. And if you're Lexie, you don't need to posture. You've already told your story by playing through the bruises, by defending without the ball, by smiling with 2 shiners like a prize fighter who also shoots 40+ from the corner. You don't need a speech. You need a plan you can believe in. If that plan arrives across the hall with a logo you've never worn, nobody will be surprised. If it arrives in your current locker room, everyone will exhale and say, finally.
Either way, the stakes are not abstract. They are the difference between a team that keeps making sense and a team that has to go find the sense it accidentally let drift away.
The craziest twist is that this isn't even a blame story. It's an attention story. Pay attention to the things that make you functional, and they'll keep making you better. Ignore them because they aren't loud enough, and they'll leave. And then you'll spend 2 years trying to replace what you only realized you needed when it was gone. Players like Lexie make coaches look smart, stars look unstoppable, and games feel calmer in the last 3 minutes. That's not sizzle, that's substance. And substance is what everyone is suddenly chasing in a league that moves faster than scouting reports can keep up. So, did the Fever accidentally put a target on her back? The honest answer is that targets appear whenever teams treat certainty like a luxury. Another club will always see the same strengths you see. The question is, whose plan will respect those strengths more faithfully? Not just in the press release, but in the rotation card. If Indiana wants the last word, they can have it. It's as simple as showing they know what they have and refusing to gamble it on experiments that look cute in October and cruel in July. Do that, and this whole nearly missed moment becomes a footnote. Don't, and the what if turns into a remember when. And those are the stories fans tell when a tough wing in another jersey hits a corner dagger and salutes a bench that never had to guess whether she'd be on the floor to take it.
And maybe that's the real hook, the one for anyone who loves the game beneath the graphics. Winning isn't just about dazzling scoring runs and viral highlights. It's about collecting players who stabilize chaos and then honoring them with roles that don't evaporate when the wind changes. If the Fever keep that in mind, they won't just keep Lexie. They'll keep the version of themselves that looked the most like a team you don't want to see in a 7-game set. And if they forget, well, there's a line forming of teams who will happily remind them what this league values most when everything's on the line. The player who makes everyone else's job simpler, night after night, without demanding the spotlight to do it.